talk shows, Find Your Own Voice, Lead from Within. With me today, Carol Ann Cooper. Carol Ann Cooper, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Lovely, thank you, Namsa. And as the writing facilitator, what I do is I support women in becoming more productive with their writing by connecting them with their deeper innate ability to write. But more importantly, they experience free-flowing writing. They experience an unlocking of the writer within. That hesitation, that, oh, what am I doing? It becomes, yes, I know what I'm doing. And the writing flows. And they're able to get this story written, because you cannot publish what isn't written. And all of this has come about through my own journey of unlocking the writer within. I can't hear you, Namsa. Are you muted?
There was music playing. It's just the music just popped up from the restream. So I didn't know where it was coming from. So that's why I was like, what is that? So I was looking for where it's coming from. So I was muted. So that's fine. So it didn't go to the broadcasting. So that's fine. So our topic today is, does social class, economic status matter in relationship? The reason why I chose this topic, there are so many single ladies nowadays and single men, and we have this attachment from our society that a woman that has been misunderstood, being powerful, a powerful woman. Yes, we have powerful women like myself. I have my own businesses, and I'm in a relationship. But when it comes to relationship, being powerful, being independent, and my economic status, it doesn't go together. When it comes to relationship, it doesn't matter. What matters is I went to school to learn how to climb the ladder, to grow, build my business and self-development, but the school did not teach me how to be feminine. So feminine and being powerful, they're two different things. But now the society, the religion is teaching people, like when you see a woman, you're like, why are you saying, when they're like, I'm a very, very powerful woman? Many feel intimidated by my success. And they're like, um, so to me, basically, I'm interested with this topic because there are so many single women out there that feel that men are intimidated by their success. But if I have gone to university and studied whatever I have studied, and they've taught me how to succeed in life, and attended events, read books about personal development, and I feel powerful, and I know my mindset is in the right place. I know where I'm going. And then I find this man who is not as successful as I am. This man has a vision. When I'm saying he is not successful as I am, he has a vision, but maybe he earns, I earn 200 grand a year, maybe he earns 100 grand a year or 50 grand a year. So to me, Carol Ann, now the question is, does that matter when it comes to love?
Well, I want to bring, oh, excuse me, brings a bit of a frog in the throat because it's clearly something that wants to be said. That's a bit stuck here, and I wanted to say, I want to bring in that should word. It shouldn't matter when it comes to love. And unfortunately, sometimes it can, because there can be resentment, there can be some feeling of inequality here. And it depends on how each of you, were brought up. So if the man was brought up with in a class, social class, where it was expected that the woman did all the work in the house, they stayed at home, looked after the children, did all the cooking, the cleaning, to then be with a woman who's actually wanting to go out to work, who it's not all about staying at home, can cause a bit of friction. But there's love there, there's something that brought them together. Is that enough to hold them together? Sometimes not, because maybe they can't communicate sufficiently in a way that has them resolve their differences. Or it may get to a point where there is resentment, there is frustration, there is anger. And I know that when I got married, there was a part of me that, yes, I trained as a teacher, I expected myself to go out and earn. But there was also that part of me that the woman did the cooking and the cleaning. And I also think that my husband then felt that that was more my role, and that I shouldn't need to go out to work because he should be able to support me. And so I was also very ambitious, and I wanted to improve myself. I wanted to move on. I was always looking for more to do, looking for more to learn about. And when I did my degree, which I got as day release from the job that I was in, I could feel there was that, I kept being pulled away from it because my husband then, he left school with no qualifications because he came from a family that it wasn't about improving yourself or getting a better job, getting a job, earning money, yes, but there wasn't that push to move up the employment ladder. And so we did have quite a few confrontations, and he did say to me at one point, he said, "You're way more ambitious than I am." But actually, what happened was he did end up sitting, because he joined the police force in the end. And although there was a lot of ups and downs whether he wanted to stay in it, but he stayed there. I supported him with doing his exams, to then becoming a sergeant, then becoming an inspector. So he moved up, and things changed in that respect. But in terms of, and then there was a point where I did earn more than him, and I could feel there was the tension there, but eventually it went the other way, and that was okay. It's okay. But was it enough to hold us together? And I think there were other factors that came in. But one thing was, we didn't really know how to sit down and communicate what was really going on, what we really wanted. And the other factor that came in, which is important, is your values. What's important to you? So if you have a difference of values, then that I think is something that has a major impact and does matter. And obviously your values come out of your upbringing, and so your social class, your economic status, your values very often can come out of that. So that's something to look at. So it's interesting. Was there enough love there to hold us together? Not really. And I think if there is true love, then you will overcome any obstacles. So should it matter? Shouldn't it matter? It's a good question. So I was interested to see this topic, and went, okay, let's dive in. Let's see, because there certainly is a shift now to women being much more say powerful. I mean, they've always been very powerful, but there's many more are standing up for themselves. They are making a stand. They're speaking out. And so, yeah, I think sometimes there can be this, men feel intimidated. It's about, let's balance it up. Men stop feeling intimidated. And actually, if they move into their more into their feminine power, rather than slipping into their masculine, power, which dominates, and that doesn't solve it, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
It's them moving into their feminine power. That's where the true power is for them, because you can match. There's something that balances up, and there's something very, very powerful when both a man and a woman, they really recognize that feminine side of themselves. Because I think it's women in their masculine energy is what can sometimes be more detrimental to a relationship. Just my thoughts, just my opinion. So what do you think?
I actually agree with you, Kara Ann, that your success shouldn't come between you and finding that connection with your spouse. And your spouse should not be feeling intimidated. Like myself, when I'm at work, I know there's this uh, energy where I'm in control. I have to make sure the job gets done. But when I'm at home, I'm more laid back, feminine energy. I bring back to my original self, where home for me is my home for me to relax. Home is for me to let a man be man. Be a man, because a man needs to know his role. His role is to be a provider. We are provider as women as well. We are part of that role of being a provider. A man is a provider, but then a well-cultured man, like what you said, the values then comes to place. Like if I was to meet somebody who was raised from a family where they are family-oriented people, they put basically values like family. They have family values. Men needs to they need to be to feel that they are leading their family. Men needs to know that a man is an architect. Being an architect means they design. A man has this big vision that um, I have my spouse. This is the vision. This is the kind of place, a town or a city where I want to live with my spouse. So they have a vision where they want to have children, or they don't want to have children. So they have their own vision that when I get married, or even if I don't get married, when I have my spouse and we have our children, this is the city, kind of city where I would like my children to grow up. But then, if a woman, let's say now you have this powerful woman that wants to take control, and that says, I'm a very, very successful woman, I'm independent, I don't need no man in my life, has that attitude. So how would that make men feel? They'll feel like nothing, because men basically they're designed to provide for their family. They're designed to design their own the life of the future of their children. Even if a man hasn't got a job, or there's some men that would choose to be a full-time man. I see them in the city where I live, like at the library. You meet a man, you'll be like, oh, and we start chatting to them, and you'll be like, oh yeah, I decided to resign my job and be a full-time dad, and my wife, she goes to work. And even that man, when they decide to stay at home, they still need to feel like a man. And that's why sometimes, for me, that's why a relationship don't work, because us women, we tend to wanting to take control, to control men. We tend to want a man to feel like I'm independent. Because of the society, we have all these things where the society has programmed people, or religion or parents have programmed people that you have to be independent, but not explaining what does being independent mean. Being independent, it means that you still have to study, you still have to go to work, you still have to apply for that promotion, but you still have to go back to your feminine energy and let a man take the lead. And nowadays, it's like when you go for a meal, like when you arrange for a date, like sometimes I'll arrange for a date and men they want to, my men likes to take a lead, they like to know what a woman, where does a woman want to go for a meal. So they like their women to choose where they want to go for a meal, and they like to pay for that meal. Here comes the woman that has money, they're like, but I'm not used to a man paying for me. I'm like, get a life. One day you can actually be that woman that let a man take lead just for one day. So I'm like, get a life. One day it will not make any difference just to go out and let a man take the lead. If the relationship that day everything goes well, then it's your turn to say, oh, okay, are we going on a second date? And then I'm like, what you can say to a man without making a man feel like you are taking control. Just say, oh, there's a place that I know where we can go. But if he still insists that he wants to take you somewhere nice, instead of you arguing with that man and being independent and saying this, let him book the nice place where he wants to go with you. Uh, and once he takes you out, you as a woman go and look for a place where they just do pudding dessert only, and just book it. It doesn't matter how much it costs. It might cost less than what a man is spent. The thought is what it counts. And then after you've eaten your meal, just say, I've got something booked as a surprise for us, and go and have fun. So I think sometimes it does help for a man. It basically has to feel like a man. But when a man feels that his beliefs and everything has been taken away from him, the relationship doesn't work anymore. I've seen women that they were like, "I'm independent. I'm educated." I'm like, "Yes, but you are educated. At the same time, you need to understand that we as women, we need to let men be men. Is being independent has nothing to do with a man is supporting you. It has nothing to do with a man looking after you, or anything else. It's just understanding. Like myself, I was raised by, my values are, I value family a lot, but at the same time, I have to respect a man. A man has to take the lead. Has to, a man opens doors. When you go to the car, you let them open doors for you. You let them look after you because they want to. So you don't force them. If you find a man that is not like that, if you can put up with it, it's fine. But if I myself, I like a man, be a man, you take the lead. Even if I'm working, I have my own money, I still let them take the lead and say where the things that we want to do. We sit down and talk about it, not to say, you know what, I don't need you in my life. I've got my own things.
I think that's more undermining, isn't it? Where you make them feel like they're not needed.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, really what letting men be men is about. It's allowing them to feel that they're needed, that they can take the lead. But it is about being in communication.
Yeah.
And there's still something that hasn't been said. Excuse me. I don't know, but it's really getting stuck in my throat today. Mm. You're saying about allowing a man to take the lead, to pay, and allow them to pay. And I agree. If they're wanting to on that first date, then fine. If they suggest that they want to go house. But to be honest, I feel, for me, that's why I've been brought up, that yeah, a man pays the way, and takes the lead. But it's also about you knowing your own mind as well.
Yeah.
It's not about you then being completely squashed so that you don't know what you want. It's not about a man taking over completely so they make all the decisions and you have no say. There is
Balance.
about you knowing what you want. It is about getting to know each other. But as you say, on that first date, they lead the way, they pay, and I loved what you said about the next one about booking a pudding only place afterwards. That's lovely, because that's just that spark of, well, this is what I like,
Yeah.
and actually adding a bit of independence in there, and but without saying, well, what you've done isn't enough, because sometimes again it's making sure that it's not read in that way. And so again, it comes down to conversation and how things are put over. And it is about being playful and getting to know each other. And as you say, it's understanding each other's beliefs, because you don't want to destroy each other's beliefs and what they beliefs about themselves, beliefs about their dreams, about their own visions. Because I love what you said about a man has a vision. Maybe a woman also has a vision as well about what they want from a relationship. It's about both being allowed to have their vision. It's about sharing that vision. And if it is so polar opposite, well, what can you do such that it comes together? Because if you really want to be together and there's something else that's pulling you together, then again, talk about it. What is the divisions? Where are they the same? Where are they so different? How can each be allowed to have aspects of their vision that is so different? And what can they bring together? And maybe there's some things you have to let go of. I think it depends how important the relationship is to you as well. But it is important that neither has to give up their dreams, and which can happen. And that's where you get the imbalance, you get resentment. And I know I was nearly made to feel that I shouldn't be doing my degree. When I had day release from the job that I was in to get my degree. And my husband then, he was sort of, oh, that means we've got to stay here, and oh, what if I want to move? And he felt, I don't know actually what he felt. I think he felt stuck and trapped because he'd been so used to just up and going and moving around wherever he wanted to. And I said, look, I'm going to do this degree. If we have to move, then I'll find somewhere else to do it. But I'm doing it. And while we're here, I might as well do it. We're not likely to be moved at the moment or moving, so I'm going to do it. And so I did, but I did this because I went straight into the second year. It was a 4-year course. I went straight into the second year because I had my teaching certificate, or qualification, so that allowed me to do that. But because of the arguments and the stress around doing it, when we came to do our exams at the end of that year to see whether we would then continue, I was at a point where I didn't know whether I wanted to continue or could continue. So didn't really put in that much effort to the exam or revision. And I got called in to the head of department's office afterwards and said that I had passed, but literally by 1 mark. So he then questioned whether it was beneficial for me to continue. But when I told him that actually I'd not done much revision, I was sort of not sure whether I'd be able to continue. And when he heard that, he said, okay, so you can carry on then. Because at that moment, I just thought, if I can pass by 1 mark, to me, that's a sign that the Lord's saying, you need to carry on with this, and you can do it. And you've got more to give. You can do better. And from that moment on, it was like, I'm doing this, regardless whether anyone else wants me to or not. I'm doing it. You know? And I did. And I did succeed. But, and again, so maybe it's something like that that you need that spark to make you get up, you know, and say, I'm going to do this. But yeah, it is just finding that way and finding and talking it through and recognizing where you might get stopped. But do share your visions. And it's recognizing where also, when you come from different worlds, different backgrounds, different interests, you can meet up with people when you're on holiday and you can get attracted to different people. And I remember one holiday in particular, it was, we got talking with some of them who were a couple of teachers. So of course I think it's the wife was a teacher. And of course we got on because we had something in common, and that's what it is about. You have something in common you can talk about. But my husband then, he wasn't interested in that. So he found someone else, a couple that we also got on with. And I remember one evening we were sat in the bar, and I was sat with this one couple and he was sat with the other couple somewhere else. And it was like, it felt so embarrassing and so uncomfortable. But I didn't know how to deal with that effectively. So again, it is recognizing, how do you deal with that without making it wrong? And recognizing that this can happen. And maybe allowing that to happen and be comfortable with it. You know? So, yeah, it can be tricky, but it is knowing how to deal with it. And it comes down to communication. It's knowing yourself. It's about knowing what you want, what's important to you, but also allowing for the man to be the man and take that lead, but have that conversation that allows you to feel part of the decisions that are being made. And I loved the fact that when we used to go on holiday, we went caravanning each year. We would talk about where we want to go. He'd get out the map and he'd organise it all. It was great. He'd say, oh, about this place. And then he'd organise it all. And that's what I loved. He would then organise that. We would go, but I'd do my part in getting everything together that we needed for us all to go on holiday. But we'd also talked about it, that he took the lead in that respect. So again, it's also knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. Because if he's not somebody that does that, but you are, then allow that role to be reversed. It's knowing what your strengths are and playing to them. And knowing what your weaknesses are and not making them wrong. You know? What do you hear then? So what else is coming out?
I love that when you say is knowing what your strengths are, and also I just want to be clear to the audience when I said the man has a vision. That's when a woman comes in, because a woman, she's a mentor. Her role is her role. A woman's role in a relationship is she's a mentor to her spouse. So that's when a man has a vision, they come together with a woman with a mindset of a mentor, then that reality comes to light because the woman will approve the reality and agree, come to an agreement for both of them, and then that comes together as a dream, one dream that is linked together. And then also what you were saying about the strength and balancing is knowing your strength as well, your weaknesses, and having a playful, keeping your playful mindset as well. Uh, because if you are a successful and educated woman and strong-willed, you will need to still have that feminine energy as well to go with the whatever you've learned. I know there are so many women out there. They spend time now studying and having growth, but sometimes if we don't get taught. The school does not teach us how to run a relationship, how to behave in that relationship. So the knowledge is needed. That's when your feminine energy has to balance with your strength and everything, your playful energy, and together you can build a better life. And for me, also, I want to make it clear to those women who are single out there and men who are single out there that marriage has nothing to do with the climbing economic ladder. Uh, Whatever we choose, women are choosing to go alone, all alone, because it's a choice, because it's a society. That's what they believe in. But if you can find a man that it can carry that woman to say, and a woman that find the balance together. My spouse, he is a carpenter. They build the shopping malls. He goes around like shopping malls, these big shopping centers. They are the ones that are building. They build Ascot. So he's we are completely different people, but he's a driven man. He has a vision for his family, and we are two different people, but we all when we sit down, we plan our lives, how we want to live our lives, how we want our children to grow. Our mind comes together. He has a vision. I am mentoring him to make sure, as a man, that his vision comes to light. If it's the vision that makes sense, and if it's the vision that is going to help our children grow, and also if it's the vision that is going to help me grow, it's not going to take away for what I'm doing. For me, I'm good. I'm good to go. Uh, my playfulness plays in, comes in, and my strength, everything. We have a balance, and at the same time, we understand that we are not perfect, and everything that we're being taught about, like for me personally, I know as a woman that I have invested so much time with my personal growth. And I also understand that being a woman, it means I have to understand my energy, and I have to understand what does being independent mean exactly. I have to understand and evaluate all that. Being independent has nothing to do with the being independent and being powerful has nothing to do with love. So love everything. Our growth comes from a place where we've learned this, like I've learned the business, how to run my own business. But when I'm learning my business, I'm not learning how to run a relationship. Then I have to have the knowledge to actually how to behave in my relationship, which is comes down to a choice now. Do I want to emasculate energy when I'm with my spouse to take control, or do I want to keep my feminine energy? That's when I have to switch off. And when I get home, I switch off. Like he plays with the children, I play with the children. And when it's food time, I ask everybody, do you guys want food? But at the same time, like you were saying, when it's off, he goes to the kitchen and he cook. I love his food. He knows the children loves the food that he cooks. Because when you don't cook, Carol, and I'm sure when your daughter cooks, the food tastes different. So when somebody else cooks the food, it completely tastes different. So I let him go to the kitchen and cook while I sit down with the kids and just wait for him. And for me, that is nice that we know that we are working as a team. And instead of me, like I'm saying, I'm being independent, I am powerful, I am this. Whatever I do when I'm at Kosi Talk Show or when I'm at Hope Springs Eternal Introduction Agency, when I get home, I don't take it. I have to learn to switch off. I have two different lives at work and at home. So at home, it means I'm more relaxed and I don't want no stress. I don't want not taking charge of anybody. So I let a man be and I plan things. What are we gonna do? And then come to an agreement with everyone. So if even him he knows if there's something like he thinks it will be good for us as a family, he will ask or he will do surprises for us. Like I have a surprise for you guys, and we normally, I told you before that we normally go to the car, and when normally go and wash the car, and then when we wash the car, we get Subway and eat while the car is washing, while we are in the car. So the other day, Saturday, was like, I have a surprise for you guys. We're doing something different today. And then we went and washed the car somewhere else. And then we finished the car, and then we went and had a meal in that place. And I think that was nice. So sometimes we like surprises. So it is nice because the surprises keeps us guessing what's happening, what is he doing. So it is nice. So we let him be, uh not controlling, like not to say just because I have money, I have this, I'm just gonna control everything. I just like to relax. Saturdays and Sunday for me is where I'm like, I'm at home. I just have to focus on my family and just to make sure that my family are happy. And also the class, the social class, like you get families that come from a well-off family, and then you get women that comes from a poor background. Does it define them when it comes to love? No. For me, I don't want any woman to say, I'm not going to go for a man that comes from a well off family because I come from a poor background. It doesn't matter what background you come from, but what matters is, do you understand the style of that person? And do you have a vision, your life? Where do you see your life in 2 years or 5 years as a woman? When you write down this list that I need a man to have this, I need a man to have this. Once you finish writing that list, check yourself out, analyze it. Why do you want to date a rich man? Is it because of money? Or is it because you like the leverage that comes with the package that comes with that man? Why do you want that? Make sure that you want it for the right reason, because nothing stays forever. That money will go. And when everything is taken away in that environment, will the relationship work? That's where Carol Ann is, from the beginning, what you said comes in. Okay, I'm allowed to date a rich man. I want to, like, let's say if I want a billionaire, I'm allowed to date a billionaire. If I want to say I want to date a millionaire, I'm allowed to date a millionaire. But when all that is taken away from that man, will the love still stand? So those are the things that you need to put into consideration. Now, if you enter a relationship with someone, it's important that knowing that nothing. I've seen people who are rich, and then that life gets taken away, gets removed from them. They lose it all. So when you lose it all, would you stay with that person? So if the answer is yes, then you're good to go.
Yeah, I love that point, absolutely, because at the end of the day, it's not about money. If you make it
Yeah,
about money, then that really, I can't think of the word, but it's not genuine.
no,
It's not about true love.
no.
Because
Oh, you're frozen, Carol Ann.
am I? Oh no.
Oh yeah, talk.
Am
Now
I
you're
right
fine.
now?
Yeah,
Talk,
now
talk.
you're
I'm
fine.
frozen. It's like, yeah, everything gets taken away. You're freezing time. But your
You have to repeat
relationship,
what you were saying.
yeah, yeah, your relationship can sort out where you got frozen. Because if you have that strength, if you know each other and you're willing to work together because you understand each other, you understand your visions, then you can keep going and you can rebuild and money can come back in again. But if you base it on money alone, when that's gone, it's like building a house on sand rather than on rocks, isn't it? You've got no firm foundation if it's on sand. So you need that firm foundation of the relationship and really knowing each other, getting to know each other, understanding each other's visions, and understanding each other's language. Because sometimes this is where, if people come from different classes, then they have a different lifestyle, a different upbringing, but they also have a different language. So it's understanding their language. What are they saying? What maybe the words they use or the phrases or the way of putting something is different to how you put it. And if you don't understand that, that can cause tension and frustration because then you don't feel understood or heard. And again, as I keep saying, it comes down to communication. Understand each other's intentions, language, what do they mean? And it's not about letting things go or making an excuse. Well, that's why that person is behaving that way, because that's what they had to put up with as a child or that was their upbringing. It's not about making excuses. It's about understanding and being a stand for, well, actually, this doesn't work. And so we need to talk about this. Because, yes, I get that maybe this is an impact you had from your childhood, and this is the impact it's having now. You need to deal with it. There's two different things. And being able to face that and confront it and transform it is what will help you to move forward together. It's when you make excuses for it and let it go and ignore it, that's when things can fall apart, because you're not really addressing what's deeper underneath to be addressed. And therefore, that's when resentments and upset and unhappiness creep in and just form that wedge and push you apart. And other people can then get in between you and push you apart because someone else may feel or seem more interesting. And so that can create a wedge. So it's allowing yourselves to be so close that no one can get between you because you understand each other. You talk about things, you talk things through. You have your misunderstandings, you have your, okay, no, this isn't working for me. You have your emotional upsets, but you know how to deal with them. And you understand where the other person is coming from, as well as you know your own boundaries. And you know when to say enough is enough. And that other person will respect that. There's respect, there's listening, there's understanding. So yes, social class where each comes from, it can matter, but it's up to you whether you let it matter
Yeah.
whether you let it have an impact on your relationship. And I know somebody who they went out with this guy who his family were quite well to do, and she wasn't from from a well to do family. And the mother of that man, she really made a point of feeling that young girl or young lass feel uncomfortable and not wanted. And said, in my sense, not marrying someone like you. Do you know? And, okay, the relationship did end, but it really made them feel uncomfortable and uncomfortable with their own background.
Yeah.
And so that can happen. So it's really being comfortable with your own background and know that if somebody comes at you like that, that's their stuff. That's their opinion. And if that person that you're dating, that man you're dating, allows for that to get in the way, is he really the right one for you? Because does he have the values that you want in a person? If he's not strong enough to stand up and say, no, I want this girl as my wife. I don't care what you say, Mum. Then I'm sorry, he's not worth having. He needs to have the courage to stand up and say, if you are the one he wants, to stand up and say and speak up and bear the consequences, because they will have an impact. So again, what are you willing to put up with? And it is about knowing yourself. And I think this is where women are getting stronger today, in knowing what they want. They're not just rolling over as much. And so there is this shift in women saying, no, I'm not going to be treated like that. I'm not going to just be a yes person. I know my boundaries and I'm going to speak out. And I want to be more educated. I want to grow as a person. I want to get to know myself. I want to go into personal development and know myself. And if that creates a wedge because one wants to go that way, the other doesn't, so be it. Because sometimes that can be something that pushes people apart, where one partner starts on the personal development route. They start to get to know themselves, which means they're not the same person they were when they first went into the marriage or the relationship. And so they're not showing up in the same way, which can disconcert the other person because they're so used to that woman behaving in a certain way or responding in a certain way. When they don't, it's like, what's happening now? And they'll try and pull you back to that. Whereas it needs both of you to want to find yourselves. And if it means that you go different paths, then so be it. It's got nothing to do with the personal development work. It's got everything to do with that you are on different paths. Yeah. You were on a path together to start with, but now your paths are different. And that's what I realized with my ex-husband, that we were come to a point where we were on different paths. And so we parted company. Being together wasn't right for us. But other people that I know, their marriage, when it's got rocky like that, and there's been this, what's happening, and do we part company or not? They've both been committed to the relationship. They're both doing personal development work, working on themselves, working on the relationship. And the relationship's got stronger and they've carried on together. Depends what your journey is. And you have to be willing to let go if that's what it takes. So something you were saying about who raised you, how you were raised. It got me thinking, because my parents and my dad was very wonderful. You need to experience lots of things. If you want to learn something, go out and learn it. And they were all for us going out and trying different hobbies, interests, and learning. Because both my parents, their schooling was interrupted, and my dad, he had to go to night school when you didn't get day release then. So he was studying while he was working and going to night school to learn so that he could get qualifications and improve himself in his job. And he did. And you know, it made me realize in a lot of conversations later on I had with him how intelligent he actually was. But because his schooling got interrupted and he didn't come out with his qualifications, again, it makes people see you in a different way. But actually, he was very, very intelligent, very clever. And so allowed mum, because mum loved to do different activities. She was a very arts and craft person. So one minute she'd be doing pottery, another time she'd be doing spinning and weaving, or, you know, all sorts of different crafts and different clubs and activities she would take part in over the years. And actually, that's what helped her when Dad passed away, when he died, and she was on her own. All of the activities that she joined over the years and she was still part of, that's what kept her going. But Dad allowed that, and he allowed Mum to go and get a job as well. My uncle wouldn't allow my aunt to make a business out of something that she was really good at. She was absolutely brilliant at cake making. She actually made my wedding cake. Absolutely beautiful, but he wouldn't allow her to go out to work, to go and actually make a business out of that, because he didn't believe that that was what she should do. You know, completely different from that kind of upbringing. And so I really thank my parents for being that open-minded and allowing us to explore, because that's, again, what I brought my children up to do. If you want to know about something, you want to explore something, go for it. You know, so again, yes, it depends who you're raised by, how you are, and then again, you bring that to your relationship. But if you meet somebody who's completely opposite and says, no, you can't do that, it's about how do you deal with that.
Yeah, it affects you. Yeah, it
But
does affect you.
my aunt was, she carried on. She found her own way of doing things she wanted in her own way, you know. Lovely, lovely lady. And so although she didn't let that get to her, she just carried on in her own way and did what she wanted to do, but wasn't able to earn the money through that interest. But I think she found her own way of doing things, you know, and being her own little bit of independence in some way. But she was with him, she loved him, and so they stayed together, you know. So again, it's, you make it work in whichever way you want to. So and keeping playful. That was something that yeah, we I mean, we always played games as children. We were brought up when we had family gatherings. We played games. It wasn't just sitting around and chatting. We were playing games. We were having fun.
Yeah.
You know, and it is about bringing the playfulness in. You don't need to be children to play. Adults still need to play. It's so important to bring out that playfulness. And I love what you were saying about just surprising, just in doing something, just surprise, that bit of playfulness.
Yeah,
It brings that variety, doesn't it, rather than being stagnant and staid. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So playfulness, certainly bring that in. And I loved your question. What is independence? What does that mean?
What's
That's
that?
something you asked about. Independent, being independent. What does that mean? And
No,
think,
I was saying sometimes we misunderstood what does being independent and being powerful, what it means. So we um, women end up saying, I don't want a man to do this for me. I don't want a man to do that for me. Like myself, I was raised by two men, and my grandparents got involved in my upbringing as well, and my parents. So I have, even though my grandparents are more laid back, but they were like, you have to education is very very important for you to educate yourself and be independent and go get a job. When you get a job or you start your own business, whatever you do, family as well, they'll bring together that family at the same time is important. So for me, I can be independent, I can be powerful, but I can still have it all if I know how to be playful, if I know how to balance everything together, knowing my strength. You spoke about the strength. So if I know my strength and my weaknesses and my playfulness, my values and my beliefs, all these things they play a part. I can still have it all in a relationship. It's just you have to learn to switch off. Sometimes there are some men or women, not just women. There are some men who go to work, how they treat they run the business. They want to run a home like that, like want to control a woman, want to control the children. It doesn't work like that. I always say to my spouse when he tells children off and when the children goes off, no daddy, you cannot speak to me like that. And he goes, yes I can. I'm like, no you can't. So I have to say to him, just how you want me to speak to you. That's how these kids want you to speak to them. And they're challenging you now because they know where they're going and they know what they want because of what you teach them. You have to practice what you teach to your kids.
Yes. Yeah.
Because these kids, they're smart. If you tell them
Mhm.
life is this, life is this, as a parent, you have to practice that. So at home, I always tell him when he speak to his 7-year-old and she refuses to do something and she goes, no, you made me unhappy. Or she goes, and he goes, no, I didn't make you unhappy. She goes, no, you didn't make me unhappy, but I don't like the way you asked. Remember how we ask? We say please, and we have to be polite. So I'm like, your language is being used against you. Yeah, so if I or sometimes they tell me off and they're like, mommy, you did not say please. Or sometimes I think I've said please, or sometimes maybe I forget and I'm like, oh sorry, please, may I have this please? Or may you please read your book? And they're like, okay. They don't argue, just stand up just because I've had please, so they want to make a point.
Mm.
So yeah, yes, it's very, very important to make sure that everything balances together. Because as a man, you have your own role. Like as a man, you know your role. Like you were saying, uh, you went to university, your spouse didn't like it. So for me, if somebody was to go to uni, they're starting, that's what they want. I'm like, go for it. As long as it's gonna bring some changes. A happy spouse, that's a happy relationship. So that's how I see it. And with my spouse, sometimes I see him, or sometimes he will say things, and then I just have to uh, say, you know what keeps me going is this. What keeps me going is this. And a few months later, you hear him saying, I've learned not to do this. I've learned to do this. I'm like, so you are learning from me. So
Oh,
it's like
lovely.
when we were looking for a home, he was like worried. So I was like, why do you worry about things? Just because you are a man, it doesn't mean everything. You have to make everything come to reality. So you have to understand that sometimes you have to let God be God, let the situation be the situation. You can't control it. No one said a man can control everything and make everything work. So I'm like, You can't give us a home even if you have money. So let it be. No stressing. You don't need to stress. All you got to do is just have a break and making sure that we're going to your dad. We're just going to have fun. And I'm like, the kids don't get to see him. So they're going to spend time with him and they're going to have fun. So might as well go along with it and just have fun and let it be. So sometimes we don't have control, Caroline, when it comes to life.
Mm,
That's why when we are educating ourselves, when we are doing personal development to grow, it's a growth that we have to be grateful of, and it's a growth that when we are learning these things, we have to allow other people to come in into our lives. There's got to be a place, a space for somebody else to come into your life and spend that time. I was listening to this girl on the YouTube. She goes, you know, every woman that is out there that says I'm powerful, I'm this, and she was like, I go and speak on big stages. I go and do this. I have my own money, but I don't have anyone to share that life with.
mm,
And it's something that I came to a realization myself, and it's something that I need to fix it and see if I can find somebody that I can spend the rest, share this beautiful life that I have with. It's lonely, even though I have managed to
mm.
save, but it's lonely. So I agree with her. Now, sometimes, or unless if it is a choice, or even though it's a choice, sometimes you can feel lonely when you're doing things. So, family, if you have family to keep you busy, you have children to keep you busy, that's fine. So, any words of encouragement, Carol, and before we leave?
Just quickly, what you're saying, it is nice to have someone to share your life with and your dreams and to work together towards them. It can be lonely on your own when it's only you that's sort of working towards them. So if you have vision, you have dreams, allow that space for someone else to come in if you want to share it and learn to grow together. It's about continually growing, knowing each other, allowing each other to grow, but allowing yourselves to grow together, giving each other space to grow, time and space. But more importantly, learn how to communicate effectively, but know what you want and be prepared to be a stand for that. And bring playfulness in every time, every time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carol Ann. I agree with Carol Ann. We can have it all. You can have the success. You can have the relationship as well. And those who are coming from different class or poor background, you can have it all. You can have that woman that you want, that is educated, or you can have that man that is educated, that is wealthy, as long as you understand the lifestyle and as long as you have a vision yourself, because you can't have what you can't grow. So in order for you, the plant that you have, it will need to grow. So how are you gonna grow that relationship foundation? The mindset has to align together, woman and the man. So if you are a woman that comes from the poor background, library is free. You can read books, be somebody. Nowadays, you can learn things on YouTube, you can learn things everywhere, as long as you're willing to give the time and study. You can study online as well. Anyway, I think, Carol Ann, I'm going to let you say goodbye to the audience. I'm going to open the door.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm going to pause you.
No, I'm opening the door. we're going to close the door today on this this chat. And thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening. You're listening to a replay, and we're here Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. And actually, I've just realised I can't end the live because I'm not the host. So recognise what you can be in charge of and what you can't, and just play with it, because all I can do is leave this chat at the moment. So Nonsa can come back and Nonsa can come back and end it because she's the host.
We are here
And we'll see you next time. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, and God bless and live with grace, everyone.
Yes.